Good morning, and today we're going to talk about longevity and health. And you can see above me the statue of Giordano Bruno. And we're going to use his life as an example to discuss what longevity really means. The significance of Bruno, not many people have heard of him. Many people have heard of Galileo and they've heard of Copernicus. But Bruno was involved. He was in the same category, the same league as them. He took their teachings and took them on his own bend. One of the greatest contributions he brought from thought was the idea of infinite worlds and infinite beings, which of course angered the Catholic Church at the time of the Inquisition, even in the Renaissance. And he had to leave Italy, his homeland. He taught all the way across Europe, and many of his ideas were not believed. Part of his entire teaching came to him in a dream one night, and there's some beautiful stuff you can learn about his life. But one of the main pieces that I bring up here about longevity, and as I've spoken recently, is about long-term goals, is Bruno eventually in his life returned to Italy, and he did get turned into the Inquisition in the Catholic Church, and he was sentenced to die for not recanting his teachings. He fully believed and had certainty in what he was teaching. And the church eventually sentenced him to burn at the stake. And where I'm standing right now is the area where he was killed or burned. And the statue was erected, what they figure is on the spot, or at least in the center of the square, the Campo de Fiori. Now, the story I'm about to tell you is probably not accurate, but it's a great story and a great way to hear it, and gets across the significance. After being sentenced to die and spending years in prison, he was eventually brought down and tied to the stake. Now, as they were getting ready to light him and sentence him, they asked, "Do you have anything else to say?" And he said, "Yes, I do have something else to say." And they bring down a scroll, and if he reads from the scroll and he recants what he believes, then they'll spare his life. And he said, "No, I don't need to say that. I have something else to say." And he looked at the head magistrate, and he looked at the torchbearers, and he said, "I'll bet your fear in killing me is greater than my fear in dying. For though you may destroy my mortal body, you will release my immortal message across the world." And they burned him and killed him. And 400 years later, the church itself had honored him at this place. It's now been 422 years since his death. And his legacy still lives on, and it's influenced physics, it's influenced thought, it's influenced change all across the world, many of the space program. Now, why do I bring this up in regards to health? The story of Bruno has been something very special to me since I first heard it. And I've since researched it and found the inaccuracies, but what he said was actually true to say to these people. There's more to my life than me just being here in life. There's more to us than this simple mortality. And people come to me and ask, how can I have more longevity? And the simplest answer I can give is I can say, live like Bruno. Live and make sure you set your life up to such an extent that I do want to have greater significance in everything I do. No, we don't need to go to great heights where we'll possibly be condemned and sentenced to death in front of many people. But the point is he was in his 50s when he died, but in his 20s he was known to have written what we call a posthumous biography. And that is, he wrote a biography of how the world would view him and his teachings 500 years later. And after 400 years later, just about all of it had come true. And we do see and agree with his teachings at this point. And in our own form of health, in our own form of life, when I've spoken on longevity and I've spoken on aging, it's not so much as can we live forever, can we have immortality in our mortal body? And you see a lot of different things out on the market right now to extend your life, to de-age, and do all these different things. But in the end, somebody like Bruno has figured out how to be immortal far beyond all that. And the greatest advice I can give you based on that is authenticity. And when we're helping you with your pain, with your problems, teaching you how to take care of yourself for the long-term life, much of that is based around this idea of being immortal, and it's living your authentic self, your authentic you. We want you to be out of pain. We want you to have this great expression of health so that you can live every minute of every day. And whether that involves a little pain and involves times of pleasure and you have ups and downs, in the end you're always looking at the long term and you're saying, how can I leave that legacy? When I talk to older people, many of them say, I would love to be healthy in order to be able to enjoy time with my grandchildren or great-grandchildren. And to me, that's part of leaving an immortal legacy. When we talk about immortality, we can't go out and make you live forever. But if we can help you live every day, we find we help that make certain that you live longer rather than just be alive for a long time. And so I hope that this message and story about Giordano Bruno has given you inspiration the way it inspires me, and that we can teach you and help you take your health to the next level in order to really have great life that you want to live for long term. Thank you.